Well, welcome to the Beyond Average podcast, where we highlight entrepreneurs who are building valuable, transferable enterprises by focusing on the four intangible capitals that drive growth in higher multiples. So I'm Kristin Carlson, and today's guest is Brian Feenie, president of ShiftLogic LLC. Sorry about that, outside of Philadelphia. So Brian, thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me, Kristen. It's great to be here, and I appreciate your time today.
Awesome. So can you just share a little bit about what ShiftLogic is with us?
Sure. So ShiftLogic is a what I would call a manufacturer rep firm, but for software and smart tools and IoT, different things related to the HVAC industry and home service industry is really what my specialty is. So I created the company 2 years ago, which is an interesting story that we can dig into as well. But um, the things that really drive my passion for the industry is moving it forward through technological advancements, whether it's smart products, smart tools, different softwares that make HVAC and home service companies more productive and more profitable. So usually when you think of a manufacturer rep firm, they're tied to products, widgets, equipment or different types of supplies. And mine really started around something that most people don't do well with. So it to me, it's become my niche and something that I love to wake up and do every day. And I get to do it on a national footprint. So I work with contractors and distributors and manufacturers all over the country, which makes things very interesting because it gives you a much broader perspective on what's actually happening with the industry as a whole.
So can you tell us about your journey on how you
Sure.
decided to create this company, where you saw the problem that you're solving?
Yeah. So the company started 2 years ago. I was actually speaking at a heating and air conditioning industry conference in Florida, and I was there from a side hustle, but I was using vacation time to do it. So it's very interesting how this happened. And come to find out that my main job laid off 11 people that day that I was there on vacation, and I was one of them. And I had to make a decision of am I going to go work for another company and get back out on the job market or do something that, in my mind over the years, the the thought of self-employment, doing my own thing and bringing that knowledge and expertise to the industry was always something I flirted with, but it's just there's always risk involved. And you always talk yourself out of timing because the older you get, whether it's kid in college, married, whatever the conditions are, I was just at a moment where I had some side hustles that were doing okay. And I was in an industry event that had the best of the best in the HVAC industry in one place. So I figured, okay, I'm just going to finally do this. And I'm going to sprint as fast as I possibly can and say yes to everything. So the plane ride home from that trip, I started ShiftLogic. I had my daughter, who's a aspiring graphic designer, design my logo. I built my website that weekend and announced the business on LinkedIn probably that Monday. So just celebrated covering 2 years of being in business, um, on track for my financial goals that I set out. And I've gotten I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of great clients and some that have been with me from the beginning. So it's been very gratifying to know it. At 52 years old, you can still take a risk in your life, in your business career, and make something awesome happen. So I look back, I'm not going back. Right? It's it's only straight ahead. So um, and some people have asked me like, well, why wouldn't you? Would you have done it earlier if you could? I'm like, I probably wasn't the right time earlier. It's just things just happen the way they do, and you just take it for what it is, and they make the best out of it. So that's kind of the origin story there on ShiftLogic and how that happened.
Well, congratulations. I mean, you got
Thank you.
that up and running really fast. I too took that leap and went into business ownership and would never turn back. I love what we're doing and I love the people that we get to help. So tell us about your ideal client and what are you
Sure.
doing to help them?
Sure. That's a great question, Kristen. Thank you. My ideal client is in I'll kind of segment that in a couple different categories. So, I do work with software companies in varying capacities. One of my clients called Measure Quick. I wear a lot of hats, probably most of the hats there that I can, when there's implementation, onboarding, sales, business development, partnerships. Um, it's a small company, so we all wear a lot of hats in that business. But I'm a fractional employee, obviously, in that environment. So a very intimate relationship there, and I have a lot of input to, you know, get progress to happen, and it's a wonderful relationship there. I've also served as an industry advisor for a lot of software companies and smart products, IoT, Internet of Things, that are trying to make entry into the HVAC industry. A lot of them are small startups, so I've learned along the way who to say yes to, who to say no to.
Okay.
Uh, because if you've ever worked in a startup environment, it's all about how much cash is available. And so, but that's exciting to me, trying to take a product that you're looking for market or product fit and trying to determine uh, the best messaging and the best way to go to market. What does the client, their ideal customer profile look like? And so that's the software side. I think that's a pretty fun project to take on when the right opportunity comes in. I'll always say yes to those that are interesting to me. The other side of it is that I do work with some manufacturers that are either launching new products or have products that they're trying to grow or bring to market. So it's another piece of what I do. Since working for manufacturers and distributors in the industry in my past life, I've I've got intimate experience on how to do that. So I get to do it in kind of on my terms. Um, and something that's really, I guess, come to my interest in the probably the last 10 years is I've realized I'm actually a pretty good trainer. So
Excellent.
training salespeople, customer service reps, technicians in the trades. Uh, I never realized that that was something I actually love to do. So I get to do that for one of my clients. It's a manufacturer. I'm their national trainer. So I travel all over the country, providing training to not only their own staff, but also to their channel partners through wholesale distribution and technicians that are actually using the tools in the field. So it's broken up between working with manufacturers and software companies, particularly that relate to the heating, air conditioning, and home service industry.
But also on the contractor side too. So it
Yeah,
seems like you've got the both ends where you can really provide that perspective that probably a lot of people don't have, right? Because you're also helping implement tools
yeah,
and helping the tools create something that's worth value to the contractor.
exactly. That is a unique thing that I sometimes downplay. I mean, if
Yeah.
you ever looked at my resume, I've had every flavor of ice cream. So it's I have seen the industry from every perspective, from working for manufacturers, working for distributors, running a home service company in the past, selling to consumers at the kitchen table. It is certainly I've been very fortunate to have that holistic view of the industry, and I think that's why a lot of people want to partner with me or like have me do some work with them because it's hard to get that perspective in one person. So and it's helpful to understand, especially when trying to help bring products to market or help to grow product lines to understand all sides of the equation. And knowing how they all work has just been my 30-year journey in my professional career to bring that all together. So it kind of, I guess that would be my superpower if I had to give you one.
Awesome. And you're also speaking, right? You can
Yeah.
speak at the national level to these contractor trades shows,
Oh,
right?
exactly. I actually have one coming up in the middle of March. The Air Conditioning Contractors of America, also known as ACCA. I'm actually speaking at their national conference for the third year in a row.
Excellent.
And that one's about how to conquer callbacks in a company. That it's a silent killer of profitability, and it's something that I talk about a lot. And I'm excited to have that platform to do it.
Awesome. Awesome. So tell us about being an entrepreneur. What was your fears? How did you get over those to get started?
Yeah, so I think I guess when I was maturing in my career path over the years, and I'll go back to even my days at Lennox when I worked for Lennox in the early 2000s, is the way they the way I was kind of brought up in that organization was to have that entrepreneurial mindset because especially when you're in sales early in your career, taking care of customers, you tend to be siloed a little bit because you end up being in a territory and you have some autonomy to do certain things. So if you're successful at it, you tend to have an entrepreneurial mindset,
Hmm.
right? And over that time and even after, you have to make some decisions of like how do you want to master your craft or do you want to just get a paycheck and and just go through the motions and understanding personality profiles, things like DISC and like like really doubling down on taking that type of uh, career paths seriously. That's I came to that turning point of like, oh, I want to do that, and so that just amplifies an entrepreneurial mindset because now you've expanded your skills, you have a thirst for knowledge, and so for me to do it on my own, 2 years ago was a natural evolution, and I tend to any place I've worked over the years, I because of my personality profile, I can like on a DISC scale, I'm high I with asserted D, right? So I can step into leadership when there's no leadership present. And so that to me was really where like that's just natural. You can't change that about yourself. It's just part of
Hmm.
your traits. So I've always had it, and now I'm I'm a single person business. I'm my own boss now. The thing that I wake up to every morning though is I have to make sure I'm bringing value to the people that I work with, my clients, and
Right.
that's always top of mind for me. I continually have to bring value to them every single day in whatever capacity I can do that. Um, but yeah, that's kind of how I think it was always there, but you have to like, especially as you're coming into your own as a professional, you have to have those mirror moments and understand like who you are and you know what do you want out of life? What do you want out of a career? I mean that's such a broad word anymore. I don't quite know what it means anymore.
Right.
But
But what gets you excited, right? To get out of bed and being able to do what you're passionate about is the best
yeah,
thing, right?
absolutely. I mean it's hard, right? It's especially when you're in some cases when you're in a sales facing um, role. There's a lot of ups and a lot of downs.
Mm.
It's a mental game, and even when I have an opportunity to talk to younger folks that are trying to build their professional careers, is they don't realize the mental health aspect of what they do every day.
Mm.
And there's a thing called work-life balance that obviously is somewhat cliche anymore because some will say, well, work is life.
Yes.
But um, there's the mental health aspect that is overlooked a lot of times, and luckily I'm starting to see a lot more focus on that from companies, especially home service companies, which those jobs are very demanding, and mental health is now starting to become something that companies, especially larger ones, are focusing on to make sure that their staff is taken care of in that perspective, or at least there's the awareness that that is something that affects people in different ways. And I've certainly had to adjust to it over my lifetime because
Mm.
it's certain when you're younger in your career, you get caught up in the hamster wheel of just keep going, 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 trying to find that brass ring of success that it plays with your head.
Right.
It can be all consuming, and if you don't step back for some perspective, you find yourself in an emergency room with a panic attack, thinking you're having a heart attack,
Right.
and that's this guy. So,
And it
um,
sounds like that's something that you can weave into how you are helping contractors, right? How can we
sure.
add this automation and some things in your business that are really going to streamline it and give you better peace of mind, right? And
Yeah,
then,
and I do talk about that like in my trainings because typically when you're trying to implement something, everyone at the table, whether they're a technician, they're in the customer service role or sales role or even ownership leadership role, everyone needs to know what's in it for them. And so that's the why. Why should we do this? And the why is different for every persona, every role.
right.
Customer service rep has a different why than a service technician. And so understanding that obviously is step one. The other part is, okay, well, if I'm going to say this will make your quality of life better, I better have a good thing backing that up because it's easy to say. It's another thing to be able to deliver on that. Like, what does that mean? If you can make someone's quality of life better at their job, that's a tall order. Like, how do you demonstrate that? And so it's all about connecting the dots. Almost from product to how it impacts everyone's day to day in a certain way, but also in a positive way.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about
Yeah,
culture, right? It's a piece
yeah,
of helping them build a strong culture and
and
productive
yeah,
team.
and a lot of times, Kristen, like what I'll find is understanding that company culture coming into a training or consultation is super important because the culture of that company is different from the culture of the company I might go to next. And so it's just trying to figure out how it aligns. It's all about the alignment there. And that's the fun part of it because a lot of folks that, you know, sell things or do training on things in whatever industry, if you're missing the alignment piece, you wonder why it didn't work out. And that's usually why it didn't work out
Hmm.
because there is an alignment.
Sounds like a mic dropped. It's perfect. So, well, Brian, thank you so much for joining us today. Any last words you would have for an entrepreneur wanting to start their own business and lead their own business?
I mean, it's if you're if you're hitting a wall in what you're doing and you realize that you're not happy anymore, the only one that can control the change in your life is you. And if you never be afraid to ask for help either. I mean, there's always people out there. I mean, I've jumped on calls with folks that I just met on LinkedIn that wanted to ask advice because what good does it do if I just keep it to myself when I could share experiences with others? Um, a lot of folks are afraid about taking a risk, taking a leap of faith. Um, I took one at a time that's probably not optimal for most people, but it's things happen and timing. If it's right, it's right, and you just have to take the attitude of there. There is no backup plan. There's no plan B. You just go.
Mhm.
And if anyone's thinking about it, and you're serving a need that's not being served properly now, that would probably be a good idea to heavily consider. Um, and sometimes you need to do it with a partner or some other folks to have that better uh, reach or better experience set in the company. Some folks can survive on their own based on where they're at in their life, but it's not for everyone. I'll tell you that, Kristin, and you know that too. It
Yes.
is not for everyone, and there's an element of stress that we wake up to every day. Of I have to perform because it's all on me,
Right.
right? Especially if you're a single person business like me. If I had added team members, it's still on me because I have to deliver for them, for my team.
Right.
And just know that going in, there is balance. I mean, balance for me is the gym. Like every day starts with clearing my head and taking care of my health so that I can perform at the highest level. So, but yeah, if you have that entrepreneurial spirit, it's ingrained, and you see an opportunity to do something that serves, people at a higher level that is being underserved today. That makes sense to me to go after something like that. Um, where most fail, I think they just try to be self-employed doing what everybody else is doing, and that doesn't tend to work very
Right.
well. And they end up going back and working a regular job again.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's my advice there.
Okay. It brought to mind a quote that I've kept close to my heart is just that we have to give up the life we planned to experience the life that's waiting for us, right? And I think
Yeah,
that's where we both are with our careers. And thank you
I
so
love that.
much for sharing.